What's up, crew? Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply. Today I got an updated Val Monica deck list for you. The cards are out. It's all pretty decently cheap, actually, which makes sense because, this build I feel is working a lot better for me. It's still kind of a mess. I think the biggest issue is you need a starter in your opening hand because your spells are mostly useless if you do not have a starter in your opening hand. And what I mean is you could activate this. So basically the issue is that if you don't control one of your pendulums on the field, you don't get to choose which effect you get on each of the non-field spells in archetype. Meaning if you activate this and you're trying to dig for something useful, they're probably just going to not give you that and make you Foolish Burial something, which is useless until you get some stuff on the board. This one is complete trash if you didn't have any type of time to set up your turn. However, it is so good if you are able to set up your graveyard a little bit. So like turn 2, this is a very good card, a really good search target off of the Skelta, or to just draw into, or whatever the case may be. But at 1, it's still fine, because even though the effect is optional and you can just use it for the life point gain or loss, that's kind of worth, like there are plenty of other cards that could do the same thing, and so that's kind of not worth playing more than one of. This one, though, is absolutely abysmal if it's your first card activated with nothing on the field, because they're just going to make you Foolish Burial. So for our starters, you have your 3 Angel and 3 Demon. Gotta play it 3 and 3 because the deck revolves entirely around it. 3 of the field spell, plus a Terraforming, and then the Planet Pathfinder I think is worth playing. It's a level 4, so you can Pendulum Summon it out, and then it's still level 4 if you wanted to make your rank 4s with it, if you wanted to use it as link material, or for its effect to, normal summon it, tribute it away to get your field spell, because you absolutely need to get these on the board turn 1 or you are in a world of trouble. Now for the rest of the monster lineup, we got that classic Clown Blade, triple damage juggler, 1 Trick Clown. I cut the Hat Tricker out. It just wasn't really worth it. It's an extra body, but there's a lot of other stuff that is extra bodies that you're looking at right now. The 1 Flame Eater, the reason the Flame Eater is so nice in this deck is because if you're able to Trick Clown into your Flame Eater that's already in the graveyard based on whatever effect or setup you did to get it there, you're going to burn yourself for 1,000 off of the Trick Clown effect to summon the Flame Eater. Then you're going to burn yourself for 500 off of the Flame Eater's effect on summon. So you get 2 of the resonance counters on the Val Monica, the demon. And then the other piece of the Clown Blade engine here, we've got 1,000 Blades. It is very, very good in this deck. It constantly, you can put it back on the board every single turn so long as they aren't able to banish it. It can't be bystealed, so I suppose that's a nice nuance to the card. And it's just so good at being a material on the board for these link monsters, so even if your board was cleared out pretty bad, you can just activate one of your traps in the back row, burn yourself, and you have or don't have the effect, whatever the case may be, to summon this. Have enough tokens on the board, and this becomes either a little board wipe or, a copy of your removal effects or whatever, so such a good card. And the Zephyros is kind of a similar thing, so bounce a card, special summon itself, and then pay 400. So a nice use of this is you can bounce your field spell. So say turn 1, you activated your field spell, you did all your stuff. Maybe you discarded the Zephyros for one of your Pendulum monster effects to get the other one on the board. You can either use it that turn, bounce your field spell, so you have it reset for the next turn, or on your next turn, you bounce the field spell and reactivate it, and you get that additional search off of it, which is really nice. The Pathfinder we already talked about. Jurigato, excellent card. We'll come back to this. This thing is amazing in this deck. The Jurigato, special summon it during the battle phase, gain 1,000, so you get an extra token on the Angel. Tribute itself to boost something by 1,000 attack, or just like every other monster that can put itself on the board during your opponent's turn, it's just a free material to make the Zeb or the Dura. Now the Assault Synchron is incredible in this deck. I don't know why I didn't think about it the first time I tried to put this together. So you can special summon it from your hand, burn yourself for 700, it gives you a token on the demon, and then you're locked into synchro summoning, but everything else in the deck is level 4, and it's really easy to recycle level 4s. So for instance, if you had this and this on the board, you can synchro them away for a 6. We got 3 of them in here, we'll get to that. This will summon itself back at the cost of 1,000, so you've now given yourself 2 counters on the demon between these 2 cards, and you have 10 on the board, so you can make the Chaos Angel, you can make the Barone. Barone is usually going to be better just because you kind of have to warp your play around trying to get the Chaos Angel out there. The Golden Cloud Beast Malong is a light, so if you have one of your dark level 4s, you got it pretty easy there, but Barone is just kind of a better card in general too if we're setting up a turn 1 board versus a turn 2 board. But I absolutely love this thing. I was going to play it at less than 3 and I refuse. I want to see it as much as possible, as often as possible, just because you can use it pretty much every turn to make some sort of a play. It's great. This lineup I think is pretty standard. The field spell gives you that search for a Val Monica monster. Currently that's only these 2. Hopefully we get a third one in the future that does something to fix the consistency a little bit. It also works as like a change of heart if you're able to hit 3 counters on one of these 2 while it's on the board. I don't use that super often, but it does come up once in a while, so that's cool. This one's alright. It's probably your 3rd best spell. I would say the Skelta's 2 and this is 1. For a life point gain, you can excavate until you hit a Vaalmonica card, add it to your hand. The reason I don't like this quite as much as the other 2, by a pretty decent margin, is because I feel like I constantly will excavate myself into a second copy of this thing, and they're all once per turn, so you can't use it anyway, and it sucks. At a life point loss, it can Foolish Burial one of your Vaalmonica cards. Usually it's going to be one of your traps, so you can copy it with the Zeb. The Skelta at a life point gain lets you put a card in your hand to the bottom of your deck and draw 2. That's pretty nice. And at a life point loss, it lets you search a Vaalmonica spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is pretty nice for, you know, getting to your field spell or whatever. So either way, this is the only one that's good to activate with no monsters on the board, no pendulum, whatever, because whatever they give you is going to get you a little bit closer to the board you need or the hand you need at that point. The rest of them, this one and this one, not good. Not good. The Terraforming Foolish Burial, we got a lot of graveyard interaction, so always good. Angel of Blue Tears, this thing's pretty cool. I could cut this for something else and probably not miss it a whole lot, but when it works, it works. So it has 2 uses to it. You can just discard it for like one of the Vaalmonica pendulum monster effects. When it's in the graveyard, if you take effect damage, you can banish it to set a normal trap to your field, and that's all we have are triple imperm and one of each of the archetype traps. So it searches your traps, puts them right there. If it was able to set it out of your hand, you can activate it in that same turn. So that's kind of good too. You can, it's almost like setting up a hand trap kind of on your opponent's turn, because you can burn yourself on your opponent's turn fairly easily, and then you set one from your hand and able to use it right away. It's kind of cool. It also can allow you to give yourself burn or burn your opponent, I guess, like kind of a cowboy for a game type of scenario. So when you activate it, you target a monster on the field. The opponent of that target monster's controller will take damage times 200 for each card in their hand, and then that monster's effects are negated. So ideally, you're going to activate, negate a monster effect, burn yourself to get the resonance counter, and then banish it to get a trap set on your side of the field at some point, you know. The one upstart, because we're trying to play as few cards as possible. Also, the upstart under the Seebeck Sorcerer is free. That's kind of a cool thing I hadn't realized until I was playing around with the deck. Seebeck Sorcerer is on the field. You can upstart, give your opponent 1,000, and then burn both of you for 1,000. So you get your draw for free. Kind of interesting. And then for the 2 in-archetype traps, still like them both. Still like the Followed Rhythm better than the other one. For a life point gain, you can pop a spell or trap. For a life point loss, you can bounce a monster your opponent controls, or any monster on the field, I guess, if you wanted to reset one of your own monsters for whatever reason. And then if you control one of the Link Vaalmonicas, you can use both effects in sequence, so you'll get the 500 life point gain and then the loss and those effects in that order. And then Chosen Melody has that same thing. You can get both of the effects if you have the Link on board. For a gain, you prevent any of your Vaalmonica monsters from being targeted by any of your opponent's card effects, and for a life point loss, you can negate the effect of a monster your opponent controls into the end of this turn. And then Imperm, I think you guys are familiar with. Now into the extra deck here, this stuff I think is pretty well known. Typhon for that bounce if you get stopped, Baguska to stall, Tornado Dragon, just because we grind quite a bit, and you're going to usually end up with extra monsters on the board that will benefit you having been put back in the graveyard or being sent back to the graveyard. And so the Tornado Dragon makes it really easy to just throw something up that can then trigger some effects on your opponent's turn by popping something, even if you have to like pop your own field spell to get a burn or to summon or, you know, whatever the case may be. So I like it, but it could be something else. The one Dugaras, you need draw in this deck, and you don't have a lot of reliable draw, but you do have a decent amount of reliable level 4 special summoning, and so it gets you the draw 2 and discard 1. You can plus decently off of a lot of the stuff stuff that you can discard in the deck. You do lose out on your next 2 draw phases. However, if you're making this, it's probably because you're able to like mostly set up your board and you're just looking for a final little piece to really put the control aspects out there, meaning you need this on the field or able to be on the field, and then hopefully this loaded up for the board wipe, and you can use this as material for that link summon if you have the counters available. And so I've been liking it a lot. I thought that them not being able to draw would really crush the deck, but you can usually get around it okay if you're making it in the right moments. For our synchros, we've got Coral Dragon, Metaphys Horus, and Golden Clown Beast Malong. Now this I think is the one I would cut if I had to cut one of the 3, which I might end up doing along with the Chaos Angel to make room for some other stuff in the future, but we'll find out. With the Coral Dragon, you can discard a card to destroy something, and then if it gets sent to the graveyard, you get to draw one. So if I make this off of the Assault Synchron and a level 4, say we got the Assault Synchron Trick Clown on board, you can synchro it away, make this will special summon itself back on the field. You can discard one to pop something, then synchro away into the Barone and get that draw. Tons and tons of plus, and the Malong is kind of the same concept. It can modulate its own level, but that doesn't come up because we only have 4s and 2s, and so you need it at its original level. But when it gets sent to the graveyard, it gets to bounce a card back to the hand that your opponent controls. So same concept as the Coral Dragon, but if you wanted the additional removal instead of the draw, you would just make the Malong. I suppose it also is light for the Chaos Angel if you wanted that instead, because you get a ton of removal between those two then. So really cool interactions there, and I've been loving that little aspect of the Assault Synchron being in the deck. The Metaphys Horus, the reason I thought it would work really nice, and it does work, is because if you make it off of a Assault Synchron and one of your pendulums, you get a steal effect. You can take one of your opponent's monsters, and then it's really easy to just link it away as a link 1 for these guys. So it's essentially removal at that point, and I do like it, but I just don't know, like, I'm very much so going to be trying to make this to get the plussing off of the whatever board you're able to put out if you can. Even if you're just going to make this and then link it away, you still get that plus, and so I just like these a lot better where this doesn't really have that same aspect to it. Barone and Chaos Angel you're plenty familiar with. Seebeck Sorcerer, a great card in this deck. If life points are gained, you can burn both players for 1,000, and then if itself or something it points to inflicts battle damage, you can gain life points equal to whatever damage you inflicted, which would then trigger the burn for 1,000. So excellent card in the deck. We've got the Duraloom. It can only be special summoned if the Angel has 3 counters on it. Once per turn, if it gets link summoned, you're able to pop monsters on the field up to the number of counters you control on your 2 Vaalmonica Angel and Demon there. So at the very least, it's getting 3 monster pops. At most, you could get 6 or 25, but there's only 6 zones, right? It also has the effect to be able to remove 3 counters from your board, and then it can attack 3 times with 2,500 attack. So the big blowout would be summon this on your opponent's turn to interrupt a combo, wipe out 3 to 5 to 6 monsters, whatever. When they pass back, remove your 3 counters, attack 3 times through open board. That's 7,500 damage. You've probably been able to burn them at some point with something else, or force it and win the game there. And then the Zeb is probably a lot more of a reliable card. So this one can only summon when this demon has 3 counters on it. It also has a built-in protection effect, so if a card you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can remove 3 of your resonance counters from one of your pendulum monsters to prevent it from being destroyed. And then on your opponent's turn, as a quick effect, it can copy a Vaalmonica spell or trap that's banished or in your graveyard and apply whatever the effect is. So most commonly, I'm leaving this out there as an interrupt, and I'm going to copy one of these two, just because this is a double removal. So if they activate a field spell or set something or whatever, you just bounce a monster, pop a field spell. Excellent. If you don't really need the removal or the protection or whatever the case may be, you can just copy one of your spells to get an additional effect and have a little bit of additional resources on the next turn. So I really like both of these cards now, and honestly, as much as I don't like this artwork, I'm starting to really love the deck because it's so unique and there's so many different little interactions in it. It makes it really fun to try to take apart and put back together and make it try to work a little bit better. An additional engine that I was suggested that I did try out is the Duality engine here. So Duality would let you special summon a light or dark monster from your hand or extra deck after tributing one of your light or dark monsters on the field, as long as it has the same level and type but the opposite attribute. So if you tributed a light, you would have to summon a dark level 4. If you tributed the dark, you'd have to summon the light level 4. Now I really like this concept because you really weren't losing any resources in theory by popping one of these or tributing one of these for that effect. effect because it'll just go to the extra deck and you can just summon it again on the next turn. The issue is the only one that has a correlation in the extra deck is this one, and there are a couple. So Herald is obviously the best one because it's a negate on the board. There is the level 4 fairy softball player thing, I think, that's a tuner that can change as a level, and while you could probably mess around with that being a level 4 tuner and put some level 8s in there, it was really clunky. I didn't like it very much, so I had these two. The biggest issue is that it cannot summon a main deck monster from the main deck. It has to be in your hand. So if this is in my hand, I would have no reason to use the Duality to summon it. I'm going to normal summon it or pendulum summon it, plus a lot of things are dark, and so it's really not that great. There is a synchro monster that you could put in here in this place, but it's crap. It is Dark Diviner, I believe. Not a good card. It does something with battle, like it can't be destroyed by battle, and I think if it battles something, it gets to destroy that monster in the end of the battle phase or whatever. It's just not a very good card. It was one of the dark signers, I believe. I'll throw it up on the screen here so you can see what I'm talking about in case I got the name wrong. But as much as I like the concept, there just isn't enough outside of Herald that made it super reliable or useful, and so until that comes up, I probably would not play it main deck personally, but I will keep it in mind because I'm sure we'll get some ridiculous level 4 dark synchro something or other in the future that we can make use of to abuse that. That'll do it for this one though. If you've been playing this deck, let me know how it's been going for you. I've liked this a lot. It's so much fun, and so much of this is cheap now. Barone is like $3 or $1 or something. Chaos Angel's kind of expensive still, but you could just not play it. It's not nearly as good as the Barone. I think the most expensive main deck stuff, probably this. I don't actually know what it costs, maybe 10-15 bucks. I think these were like 5s to 10s, these the ultra rares. Everything else is like almost nothing, so really cool. I think I'm gonna pick it all up actually just so I can play it in person at locals just to see how it goes. I think it definitely still gets shit on by meta, but it could be fun at like the low end tables once you lost a round or two. But anyways, happy deck building. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Goodbye.